Hey guys, welcome back to We Watch a Movie. This is Horror Profiles, Dr. Loomis.
It keeps getting better every single time I hear it.
Why you have to scream into the microphone, Mitchell?
I don't know, because it was in front of me.
Okay, so guys, what we do with Horror Profiles is usually we do lesser known horror characters. That's the whole idea behind the show. Give you some extra backstory you may not have known. The first one we did was Shatter from Hellraiser. Dr. Samuel Loomis. He was born in 1918.
God damn.
He's very old.
That was the year that you lost your virginity.
He's been played both by the great Donald Pleasance and also Malcolm McDowell, he did a great job as Loomis.
First one.
Rob Zombie. He still did a great job as Loomis in H2, but Rob Zombie fucked the character up.
Yeah, that character got dumb as shit.
All the badness was in the writing. But yeah, so he was born in 1918. He's a doctor at Smith's Grove Sanitarium.
I know it well.
He's a loner who thrives on the countryside.
Ah.
He enjoys whiskey straight from the bottle. Does not smoke anymore, but will accept cigarettes. And his medication of choice, as we all know,
That's weird. Yeah, he never did smoke, but he always played with cigarettes. Yeah.
His medication of choice is, of course, Thorazine.
That's the idea.
Now, when Michael Myers, as a 6-year-old boy, randomly stabbed his sister Judith to death, through 4-hour-a-day sessions, Loomis tried to understand the reasoning behind what Michael had done, and in the end concluded he was pure evil.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Once he realized he couldn't help Michael, he dedicated his
Damn,
life...
I love plays.
He dedicated his life to keeping him from hurting anyone else and keeping him locked away.
You fooled them, haven't you, Michael? But not me. Got them your back.
However, on Michael's 21st birthday, he was due to stand trial in his home county, and Loomis was charged with the task of transferring him, planning to do so with a heavy dose of Thorazine. He took Mrs. Chambers along with him, who didn't understand when she got to the fucking sanitarium that they weren't allowed to just roam the place.
I remember that scene in the movie too, because she was like, he won't even be able to stand up and try. I was like, that's the idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna pump that bitch full of Thorazine.
That would knock a horse out, but not naked.
And it's so stupid too because they go to transfer him on Halloween night.
They always do.
They always do.
That's the tropes of every. Like even in the 2018 Halloween, they transferred him on Halloween night.
Take that motherfucker on Valentine's Day.
Well, it's the only time the bus schedule was available. What the fuck?
But before Michael escapes before he gets there, letting out the other inmates as well, steals his car, leaves him stranded, and that begins the babysitter murders of 1978.
A little cool thing, if you guys noticed in that scene as well, when they're driving around, when Michael smashes the window, it's a wrench in the actor's hand that smashes that window. That's pretty cool.
Hard to see.
He was doing some construction work for Bob the Builder.
Death has come to your little town, Sheriff.
Now, in the events of 1978, no one believes Dr. Loomis about Myers until bodies start showing up in Haddonfield. He finally tracks Michael down, shoots him 6 times off the balcony, but when Loomis checked the ground beneath, Michael was gone.
That's badass.
That continues into the events of Halloween 2, 1981, where Loomis comes down to check on Michael. He's gone. The neighbor comes out and says, "Is this some kind of prank? I've been trick-or-treated to death tonight."
You know what death is, bitch!
Loomis also begins to realize Michael Myers is not only evil, but possibly supernatural.
I shot him 6 times! I shot him in the heart! But he's not human!
Still hot on the Shapes trail, he's ordered to leave the city of Haddonfield by the governor. Now let's take the doctor, the one guy who has some control over his psyche, and force him to fucking leave town.
I think it was more of a PR thing rather than... Because they knew that if he was out there and that if the media got a hold of Dr. Loomis, then Dr. Loomis being kind of on edge at the point, he might just spill the beans on Michael Myers.
You know what he was afraid to do? He was
wear G-strings.
He was afraid Loomis would cause a chaos scene.
Ah.
I will cause a chaos scene!
That's actually not a Loomis line.
I know, but it should have been.
I added that in there because when we went to Scarefest one year and we walk in, I'm dressed as Michael, Jay's dressed as Loomis, and we walk in and Jay goes, "I will cause a chaos scene!"
It seems like what a Loomis would say, though, if he was pissed off, they keep driving him.
It was one of the funniest moments of my entire life. When Loomis hears from his friend Miss Chambers that Lori was Michael's sister, Loomis puts a gun to the policeman, forcing him to take him back to the hospital where Lori is. When they get to the hospital, Michael is again confronted with Loomis. The face-off ends up in an operating room. Michael then stabs Loomis in the stomach with a scalpel. Loomis gets back up, still manages to get up, and he releases the oxygen and ether into the operating room. Once Laurie has reached a safe distance, Loomis tells Michael,
"It's time, Michael. Come for your fruity pebbles."
Loomis lights a lighter, exploding them both together. A monster and his
And
creation
again, if
die
that
at
was
once.
the end of it, I'm glad it wasn't. But if that was the end of it, the Van Helsing character going out with the monster that he'd been chasing his entire career, I'd have been happy with it.
Yeah, I'm glad that they didn't because I love the sequels, but...
That ending was fucking awesome.
Yeah, Loomis took on the ultimate sacrifice on that one. That leads us to Halloween 4.
Which, by the way, I want to point out, there was a question at some point, I saw it on Facebook, and somebody asked, why isn't there any final guys in horror movies? There's all talk about final girls. Jamie Lee Curtis is obviously a final girl of the Halloween series. But in some way, would you consider Dr. Loomis being the quote-unquote final girl or final guy in Halloween 2?
Absolutely.
Since he's the one that ultimately makes, like you said, the sacrifice to take Michael down.
Yeah, and for once, he doesn't die in the first sequel like they do so many times in these.
What was that? Was that a soda pop?
That was a
sody pop.
That was Asian tea.
Oh, isn't it?
In honor.
You are now a part of my friendship.
So that takes us to Halloween 4. Right now, guys, we're just going through the movies and what happens to Loomis's character along the way.
Yeah.
We're going to get deeper into his backstory and some of the other stuff that happened to him as well. But in the events of Halloween 4, Loomis returns, apparently surviving the ordeal of H2, the explosion, which makes no fucking sense. But we love Dr. Loomis, so we're okay with that.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he got exploded, from fucking Black Ops 2 exploded. I don't know, Napalm in the Morning exploded.
My memory goes back 12 years. Michael has returned to Kiel after escaping the hospital when they're trying to transport him once again right before Halloween night. Loomis hears of his escapes and starts to head towards Haddonfield. On his way, he stops at a gas station to take a dump. He doesn't really, but he stops at a gas station along the way. That's where he runs into Michael, and the classic gas station scene happens.
Yep.
Dr. Loomis pleads with Michael and then attempts to kill him.
Michael, why now? You waited 10 years. I knew this day would come. Don't go to Haddonfield. If you want another victim, take me in the butt. But leave those people in peace. Please, Michael. God damn you!
We always think that he says "God damn you, Michael," but he doesn't.
I know, but he should have said.
He
should have said "God damn you, Michael."
It's kind of taken on its own thing with
yeah.
us. So we fucked that up once, and now it's forever.
Yeah, it's forever.
Loomis, then after the explosion scene at the gas station, one of the best scenes of the entire franchise.
Amazing.
Loomis decides that he has to take off after Michael on foot. When the explosion perfectly knocks out also all telecommunications because it takes out that pole.
Michael's smart.
He
knew randomly he could just pull that down.
So Loomis leaves. He's walking on foot. He'll do anything to stop him. And at that point, a group of cheerleaders and jocks pulls up in a weird scene. And they're like, "Come on, let's go, man." He's like, "I'm coming." And then all of a sudden, they just leave him in the dust. But then you get one of Loomis's few friends that he makes along the way. Because everybody hates Loomis. I mean, they could have made a TV show called Everybody Hates Chris.
I don't know why they did, though. I guess it was just because of what he represented. To see him, you knew... the town of Haddonfield knew what he represented.
And they all blamed him. Everyone blamed him for letting Myers escape. But as you can see in the
I like
scene,
that. Well, in Halloween 2, I guess, he's like, "God damn you for letting him out again." Or he's like, I didn't do it. I don't know.
It was not me.
It was not me.
It's crazy because in the some of the outtakes of the TV version of the original Halloween, you see Loomis actually talking to a couple of the doctors, pleading with him not to let Michael even get his... He doesn't even want him to have his... Because when they're 21 years old, at this point in time, they all have to have... I don't want to call it a appeal hearing or whatever you want to call it, the reason that they're transferring Michael in the first place. And Loomis is begging them. He's like, "No, don't. He's pure evil." And they're like, "He's a catatonic." And Loomis is like, "Don't you think that he might be doing that as a ruse?"
Yeah, Michael has been his patient for that long. I mean, I would be listening to the motherfucker that's been treating him for that long. And if he says, "Don't do a transfer," this psychotic inmate... Maybe listen to him, Jim.
Maybe a bit. And not just that, but it wasn't Loomis's fault he escaped. Loomis shows up and he's already out. And Loomis, as you see him telling Dr. Wynn in the classic scene, he's like, you let him out. He's like, he can't drive. He's like, maybe there has somebody around to give him lessons.
Yeah.
Maybe
they did. That place is run like shit. It looks like a Denny's restaurant in there.
None of this was Loomis's fault, but he's always... not only does he bear the blame on himself throughout the entire franchise for Michael, he's obsessed with stopping him.
Which I think that's why Dr. Loomis, to me, I think to you, to most people, is like the perfect tragic hero. Because he doesn't get any kind of recognition or any kind of praise. Yeah, and he's hated, and he hunts down the monster at any cost, and he's still hated for it. I mean, even though he's willing to go the extra mile and he's trying to warn people, but then once he tells people, like, hey, this motherfucker's crazy, stabbing titties left and right, LeBron James, and, like, nobody's listening. And then finally, when they do listen, they're like, "Oh, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You fucking did it because you couldn't treat him." Like, motherfucker, I tried.
So this is why when Jack Sayer comes along, the old man preacher in the truck, it's nice to see Loomis make a friend. So he gets in the truck with this guy. The guy picks him up, and the guy says, "You're hunting it, ain't you?" "Yeah, you're hunting it, all right. Just like me."
What are you hunting, Mr. Sayer?
Apocalypse, end of the world, Armageddon. It's always got a face and a name. I've been hunting the bastard for 30 years, give or take. Come close a time or two. Too damn close. You can't kill damnation, mister. It don't die like a man dies.
I know that, Mr. Sayer.
Then they drink together.
Yeah.
He sings.
That's fucking badass, too. I love the fact that they're sitting on this country road and this dude just pulls out a flask and he's like, "You want that?" He's like, "Oh, yes." And then, like, Loomis doesn't care that the guy's drinking and driving at all. Like, he's like, "That's fine. I do that every morning. It's no big deal." Right before.
And then when he starts singing, Loomis just looks at him and one of the few smiles.
Flying down the river.
That's amazing. Loomis eventually gets to Haddonfield and he goes and he tries to convince Sheriff Meeker that Michael.
Did you like Meeker?
I liked him a lot.
Yeah, Sheriff Meeker was a pretty good substitution for what was
Brackett.
Brackett, yeah.
Yeah, he was a badass. But yeah, so Loomis tries to convince him in one of the greatest Loomis quotes that Michael is back.
6 bodies, Chef! That's what I see between here and Ridgemont! A filling station in flames! I'm telling you, Michael Myers is here, in this town! He's here to kill that little girl and anybody who gets in his way! Now give me the goddamn remote!
That part was added, but yeah.
Later, and still trying to corral Michael to do anything he can, trying to explain to these people how fucking evil he is and unstoppable he is, and he's not just a man, and this is some shit to be taken seriously for the 4th goddamn time. Eventually, Michael goes in and he kills everybody in the police station. So.
A scene that we were deprived of. Like, in Halloween 4, as great as it is, like, I wish that scene had been there. Like, when he fucks the police station up.
Yeah, but eventually, Loomis ends up corralling a militia of sorts, just a bunch of rednecks with guns, and when the guy tries to stop him, he's like...
Sheriff Meeker, he's like, "You created a lynch mob." He's like, "You don't have a police force."
Loomis then takes Michael's niece, Jamie, to the schoolhouse. He's hoping to hide her from Michael. And again, we're skipping over stuff, but this is Loomis' storyline we're trying to stick with here. He gets Jamie, he takes her to the schoolhouse, thinking that Michael won't go there to look for her, but Michael does show up, and he throws Loomis through a window, one of the many
Which is
scars.
like out of nowhere, though.
Yeah.
Like, he just pops up, and then Loomis is gone.
And then Loomis just randomly pops up again when the chase scene happens. He's back in the frame, and he shows up just in time to see everybody pumping rounds into Michael Myers at the end of age 4, like
there?
Sonny from Godfather. Yeah,
because I thought it was retro fixed in Halloween 5 that he was actually there.
He's in and around on the edges.
So I didn't see the Halloween. I didn't see him there, but
okay. When they get back to the house, Jamie stabs her stepmom. It looks like she's taken over the mantle of him, and Loomis appears around the corner and screams, "No!" He tries to hold a gun up to her like he's going to shoot her, and then the Sheriff Meeker actually stops him. He's actually going to kill Jamie, knowing what she's been consumed with.
No, fuck.
That takes us into Halloween 5.
Which, I mean, that ending of Halloween 4, though, I really just was like, no.
Yeah, no. Don't ever try to...
don't do
stop
the recreation.
With the dirty telekinesis.
I don't like it.
But going into Halloween 5, after trying to kill her in Halloween 4, Loomis is weirdly assigned to her at Haddonfield Children's Clinic.
Which makes sense because she just tried to kill her stepmom.
Right, but he tried to shoot her. And they're like, "You're her doctor."
Yeah,
good job.
You got to do that.
Now, we know Loomis's intentions are pure, but how did they know that? But yeah, after that happens, Loomis somehow knows that Jamie and Michael are telepathically linked in this movie. Like, he just has a sense of it.
I think it's because he just knows Michael is evil. Like, he knows there's some kind of evil connection or that goes beyond human understanding.
This is when you get really over the top Loomis, right? Mm-hmm. And he's trying to talk to Jamie. He's trying to get her to give him some clue as to where Michael is because he knows about what's going on.
Yeah, at this point, Loomis is, "You can find me in the club, bottle full of bud." Baby. I mean, he's fucking gone off the edge.
He's screaming at her, trying to get her to draw pictures of where he is. Then you get the classic Cookie Woman scene.
Yeah.
Cookie Woman?
I mean, it was a great scene and everybody remembers it, but at that time, I just wanted to like, "Today, Junior, spit it the fuck out. What's a Cookie Woman got to do with it? I'm asking you where he is."
I meant to put that in there, but you got to do a good Cookie Woman.
Cookie Woman? Cookie Woman.
Cookie Woman.
He's on a Cookie Woman.
That's going on. He's screaming at her. He's like, "Write it, Jamie! Goddamn you, write it!" He's in her face. The nurse has to come in and tell him to leave the girl alone. She doesn't understand.
Leave the girl alone.
Loomis is just trying his best to stop this from happening. He's not very couth. He has no bedside manner. He's in this little girl's face screaming at her.
But in his defense, I mean, he's probably not like that, but I think that Dr. Loomis at that point had been pushed to the edge, and he was like, nobody believes me. Nobody understands what's going on. This motherfucker's still out there killing. He's going to come back, and she's the only link. Like, at that point, again, why Loomis is a tragic hero, because he's willing to sacrifice everything, even, morally. Treating a little girl like shit, I guess, in some way, just to get the answers that he needs. Because to him, the ends justify the means. I think at that point...
He's obsessed.
Yeah, well, anybody in his way, he'll fucking crush you, walk over you, shit in your mouth. He doesn't care. He needs to kill Michael and stop him for good. I mean, that's it. And I think that deep down, Dr. Loomis always knew that the only way to stop Michael, it was ultimately going to cost his own life.
And it adds to his tragedy, too, because you got this little old man running around with scars all over his face, screaming in little girls' faces, but he's really trying to do the right thing, but there's no way anybody can possibly understand that. And eventually he makes sort of the ultimate sacrifice, because when Loomis uses Jamie to get Michael back to the house, he uses her as bait. He eventually traps Michael with a steel net. He shoots the
tons of tranks.
Yeah, the trank darts into him, which is a great plan. Maybe not to murder him, but to capture it. Loomis actually pulls off the plan.
That's always weird to me. Do you think, in some way, that Loomis, despite wanting to stop Michael, that there was some kind of holdback that he didn't want to actually kill him?
We'll get into that too, because that gets changed a little bit in the 2018 storyline. But as we move forward, he actually stops Michael. He figures out how to at least stop him. Maybe not to kill him, but stop him. He puts the gate on him. He shoots him with the tranks, and then he's beating him with the 2x4. And it's so crazy that Loomis he's hitting him. He's screaming, "Die, Michael, die!" Yeah. He actually has a stroke right there. Falls on top of Michael.
That should have been it. Like, I thought that was it.
That would have been the coolest way to go out ever. Like,
killing Michael.
Yeah, it would have been so poetic. But that's not what happens.
Or, I mean, is it more poetic, though, than the Halloween 2, though, with blowing up?
It's more personal with the 2x4.
It is.
But,
I mean, I feel like we're discussing how to kill somebody. It's like, what's more personal to you? Like, I like to blow people up, but I like to be in their face as well. Like, I feel like it's a more romantical link.
Which is why Halloween 5 is our favorite technical, it's not his death, but it's our favorite technical Michael Myers
fucking great
death scene, because it's so one-on-one and personal the way it happens. But he doesn't die there. We move on to the events of the Curse of Michael Myers. Now, there's 2 Loomis storylines to go with here. In this one, the theatrical version, Loomis, and a lot of them are the same, but a lot of the stuff in here is the same, a couple differences, but in both versions, Loomis lives in the countryside of Haddonfield. I thrive on this.
Is it the countryside? I thought he lived further away.
No, he's like on the outskirts of Haddonfield. So, Dr. Wynn shows up, tries to get Loomis to come out of retirement to take over the hospital again. He declines with the, it's not wise to play tricks on an old man. You should know it's not wise to play Halloween tricks on me.
Two old friends.
Yeah, and I like Loomis has some whiskey in there too.
I know, he's drinking all the time. At that point, he's Tom Atkins from Halloween 3. He's like, time for a drink.
Yeah, it's getting late. I could use a drink. But yeah, they move on. They hear Jamie crying at the radio station. Loomis finds the body of Jamie, dude, one of these days we're going to do one of these for Jamie, and it's going to be the saddest shit ever. Her storyline is so sad when you go back and look at it. But he finds her body. He runs into Tommy Doyle, as you know, from Paul Rudd.
Loomis didn't find her body.
Loomis was
he was there. Yeah, he was there. He was called in.
Right.
Because they had that was the first time, by the way, you can see the arts and crafts of Myers, because he has the fucking symbol of Thorn on the, blowtorched into the haystack.
Yeah, so Loomis is on the investigation for this throughout the entire thing. But at one point, he finds out that Dr. Wynn is the Man in Black from the previous films.
I thought it was Will Smith.
Loomis finds out that his old friend is actually the Man in Black. He gets knocked unconscious. They wake up, and they're like, I feel like we've been drugged. They end up going back to the scene, the whole cult's lair, everything that's going on there, where Loomis confronts Dr. Wynn, and he tells him he's a piece of shit, basically. They knock Loomis out. And meanwhile, all the other stuff happens with Paul Rudd, all the other characters. Loomis shows back up just in time at the end of the movie after Myers has been incapacitated by getting hit in the face multiple times with the steel pipe from Paul Rudd. And just in time to rush Kara Strode and Tommy Doyle and the baby, Steven, out to the car.
Yeah, you look like Steven.
They're like, hey, come with us. And he's like, I have some unfinished business.
And then you get the classic scene of the mask laying there with the syringe and the goo, and then you hear Loomis scream for the final time. You can take that as you want. It's more of like a build your own story at the end of that, because you don't know what happened. Maybe Michael confronted him without his mask on. He looked like shit. He's like, damn, Michael, you've not been using OxyClean, have you? Or, maybe he died. Maybe that's what it was. But whatever, it left it up to the imagination, which I prefer the ending of that specific with just the mask laying there and Michael gone, and then hearing Loomis scream in the distance, rather than what happens, and we'll get into that, to the producer's cut.
And they did it this way because the greatest Loomis of all time, Donald Pleasance, actually in real life died before the movie was released. So they kind of had to chop something together there. But there was also another ending that happened in the producer's cut. The way that the
By the way, speaking of, before you get into that, you know that Donald Pleasance had actually said that, unfortunately he died, like Mike said, but he had wanted to do like 22 of the films.
Oh, yeah.
Like he said he wanted to do 22 films because I think he was like on a James Bond thing. You know, that there was 22 James Bonds at that time. He's like, I'll do 22 of these films.
Yeah.
So Donald Pleasance was going to keep going for as long as they kept the Halloween franchise going. I mean, just to imagine what he would have been like in H2O, because I don't know if they would. They had to have. Donald Pleasance would have been like, yeah, I mean, I want to do it. No, we're just going to focus on Jamie Lee Curtis. You'd be an asshole not to put him in H2O. And then if Resurrection, that turd might have never happened.
Who knows if this all started when he was younger and everything could have gone differently? What crazy parts?
He was a pretty big actor back in the day. Like, I mean, he did Dr. No, and like he had like a lot of and he came in to shoot that scene in Halloween 1 for like 3 days.
Oh yeah, even the great John Carpenter. Like, even though back then he was just John Carpenter, he was even like he was nervous working with him. And Loomis was cool enough to show up and do this little movie with these teenagers basically
for 3 days, and then they paid him, and then he was off.
Yeah, and then he bought into it. Like, look what he did with that little.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he took a small little thing on a page and brought it to life.
Donald Pleasance has as much claim to the success of the Halloween franchise as anybody else.
I think he's got as much claim to fame as like someone like Alec Guinness, who played Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars. Like, to me, he's just as important.
Absolutely, man. It's insane
Fight me.
how important he is to this fucking franchise. But so a different death for Loomis, not a death, but a different end for Loomis in the producer's cut. Now, in the producer's cut, what happened? Michael stopped by the ruins.
I got this from D&D. The greatest dice ever.
Tommy Doyle rolls a 6, and Michael can't fucking move. They escape, and then Michael somehow gets a hold of Dr. Wynn in this moment and forces Dr. Wynn to change him clothes. Dr. Wynn's laying there in the ruins, and he's got the mask on. Michael walks down a hallway and escapes, but Loomis comes up thinking it's Michael, takes his mask off. It's Dr. Wynn. Dr. Wynn then grabs him and says, "It's your game now, Dr. Loomis." Then the Thorn symbol starts to appear on Loomis's wrist, indicating he's supposed to take over the cult now. And then Loomis screams, which is the same scream you hear at the end of the theatrical cut. So it's led you to believe, and I think their original intent was to have Loomis, but obviously they didn't know he was going to die.
Become evil.
To have him take over the cult. Even though he never... But it's fair, because what's cool is that Dr. Loomis never gave into it. He was forced into it.
Yeah, but he started screaming like he had no choice. Like, it was like a witchcraft shit. I don't like that fucking ending. I think that ending would have... Like, the whole idea with the runes stopping Michael, and like there was some kind of mystical, magical fucking Power Ranger force to keep Michael at bay. I hated that idea, or that range of where they were going. And again, I'm not going to bitch and complain too much about it, because it was a fan script, and without that fan script, we would have never got The Curse of Michael Myers, because the writers and producers of Halloween 5 screwed their dick hole so hard they got caught in a mousetrap, and they didn't know where to go. So, it was at least something original and different. I mean, they were trying to explain, symbols and shit. That's why Michael is what Michael is. But I think that ending for Dr. Loomis would have been just too... anticlimactic. Like, it's just kind of like...
It's one of those times that you can say, thank God for studio interference, and it's a rare thing you can say that.
They must... Was it test footage? That had to be...
No, they went back and reshot a bunch of shit and changed it. But the thing is that this was the original intended ending before the studio got involved. But here's the thing, like, this was the last point of the storyline. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, nobody ever took this storyline any further. So this storyline ended here.
I just feel like at that point you were getting into Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well,
like super
But the thing is had the theatrical version, the technical official canon version, which none of that really matters now anyways in the series, had it ended there, your last shot of Dr. Loomis would have been taking over the evil cult.
That's what I'm saying. I don't like that.
That'd be terrible. So I don't think the studios even cared maybe about Loomis.
I don't think they knew what they had. Like, I don't think until later on they realized how great Dr. Loomis was.
Well, what I'm saying is, though, I don't think that the studio did this intentionally. It's because they cared about the legacy of Loomis or anything like that. I think it just worked out for fans that our last scene of Loomis wasn't him becoming evil. Like, that would have sucked.
that would have been terrible.
But so from this point on, the whole franchise just changes lanes. They eradicate all the movies except for H1 and H2. And as you know, in H2O, Loomis, Donald Pleasance has died. He's passed away, unfortunately. He's not actually in the movie, but they do create some backlog into his story.
They got a guy that came in to do some lines as Dr. Loomis, which originally, he did a pretty damn good job, to be honest with you. I thought originally it was Dr. Loomis. They had some kind of... or they were just relaying or relooping the footage from the original with the audio and then just overlaying it on that track. But honestly, they could have just done that. They didn't need an actor to do that. But still, yeah, Loomis is gone, which is at that point I'm kind of like, fuck.
Yeah.
Would you wanted them to recast though, like, or just to have a guy come in?
Absolutely fucking not. But you do. You know, you can tell when he looks too close, it's not Loomis, and you can tell that in the new movie too.
Yeah.
But so in this timeline, it continues after the events of Halloween 2. Michael returns. He murders Mrs. Chambers. Miss Chambers, it's revealed that who's the chain smoking nurse in the original one. They reveal that he passed away from natural causes in her home. He lived with her as a friend for a while, and she took care of him in his final days. He passed away in her house, but his office was also there.
You also see, finally, truly, the dedication and the obsession, I guess, that Loomis had towards Michael Myers. Like, there's clippings of Michael Myers everywhere in his office. There's a map with all these little pin marks in it where the murders have happened, and he's still tracking him, even to his last day. Loomis was obsessed with Michael Myers.
Yeah, he even had a Michael Myers jersey hanging in his office. But no, yeah, you get
that shit too.
And that's where the file for Laurie gets stolen. So that's what Michael was doing there. But you do get a nice nod to Loomis in that scene as the opening credits go on. You, as we talked about, you get the impersonation of his voice. You get to see his office. You get to see a nice throwback to Loomis and how he tried all these years to find Michael and never gave up, knowing that he was still out there. Because he's like, fuck, if I survived that explosion, he did too. Mm-hmm. He knew he was out there. So going forward after that.
So he's not really in it. I mean, no. There's not much to say about it because he's not in H2O.
Here's the funny story about that, and this is real. This is where it gets really interesting. There's a short story / comic book / novelization for Halloween called Halloween Sam, and it's all about Loomis and what's going on.
Badass.
It's funny. There's this woman, Elizabeth Worthington. Is in this storyline? She's someone who knew Loomis and who had loved him, but. For whatever reason, they never had closure on their relationship. She moved, and he stayed where he is, and she's always kind of regretted not trying harder with him. You know, it's Loomis, so he's got.
That's weird. Like, I never thought about him having a love life.
Right,
like, it's like your dad like fucking your mom. You're like, I don't want to think about that.
And he didn't. It's the crazy thing is that he didn't. But she needed this closure. So she's this 73-year-old woman in this storyline. She's living in Britain, and she decides that before she dies, she wants closure. She wants to know how he's doing. So she flies to Illinois to surprise him. Now, when she gets there, Loomis is living in Miss Chambers' home. This stays in the H2O storyline. This whole story does. When she gets there, she arrives at his house, and Michael Myers shows up, knocks her unconscious from behind, cuts off her hand, puts it in a baggie, and then she wakes up in Dr. Loomis's office / hospital room while Loomis is sitting there, and she has the words Carrie Tate carved into her back.
That's fucked up. That's like Michael sending a message like, sleep with the fishes tonight, dog.
He's trying to find her. So Loomis wakes up, and Michael forces Loomis. Loomis tries to save her, but he knocks him to the floor. Michael forces Loomis to watch as he gouges her eyes out in front of him. He cuts her fucking eyes out right in front of him, and she's praying to pass out. She finally passes out. Michael leaves the room. She falls down. She's still alive for a moment. She falls down. Michael leaves the room.
Now that my business is included, I need to take a dump.
And Loomis has to watch her die. Now, when she dies, they're both laying there across from each other on the floor. In her final moments, Michael comes back in, cleans up the entire scene, takes her away. Nobody ever knew she was there. Nobody saw her. Her family didn't know she was going. Nobody knew what happened. And everyone assumed that Loomis died of natural causes, when in fact Loomis died watching him do that. He had a heart attack. And that adds that. So the whole storyline you heard in H2O about him dying of natural causes, in this storyline is actual bullshit.
I like that. It's fleshed out a little bit more because it gives a little bit more credence to Dr. Loomis, having anything to do with H2O. But at the same time, I don't know if I like the fact that he had something carved in her and was trying to send a message to Dr. Loomis and then gouging her eyes out. I know he was doing that, but that just, Michael, I always felt like Michael's just a force. Like, he doesn't do like Batman research and like, super detective and like, I'm going to intimidate you and like interrogate you. Like, it's not Michael Myers, but it's cool that they fleshed out a little bit more of a Dr. Loomis story. So
yeah, it's a pretty crazy tie into the whole H2O story.
But they would have had to recast Donald Pleasance if they had had him come in and do that scene.
Yeah, that's true.
And I don't know if, at 74 or 5 years old, whatever age they, I don't know. I could have been like again, H2O to me was like, it was okay movie, but adding that scene in might have made it more, it would just change, I think, too much on Michael Myers, like his legacy.
This also, moving forward, now, We're also going to talk about Malcolm McDowell's version of Dr. Loomis. We'll get into that, but I do want to let you guys know, if you haven't seen Halloween 2018, you might want to click off the video now until you have, because there are some Halloween 2018 spoilers coming up. That's your warning.
Give you 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Click it.
What they have done here is add to the backstory of Loomis in this movie and change it up a bit. He's featured in a vocal cameo in the movie. And he's voiced by sound-alike comedian Colin Mahan. And you get to hear him talking in this scene where he's saying basically... he's saying that the evil needs to die. Now, you assume this is at the court hearings after the whole thing happened.
Yeah, it was a court hearing.
But it's Loomis pleading with him that he needs to, once his heart is stopped, you need to not only then wait till his heart stopped, but also incinerate
I thought that was
him.
a great line.
It needs to die. It needs to die.
After I've listened to it, after the heart stops, then incinerate that motherfucker.
But he also says, by the way, I do like the fact that they say you have to incinerate it. Like, they do keep in the classic fact that he never really refers to Michael as him or he. Every once in a while he will in that little recording, but he always refers to Michael as it. Because he doesn't think that Michael is human. And actually, Dr. Sardane tells, the journalists that are in the movie that Dr. Loomis was the only one that saw him in the in the wild, that saw him out there that night in 1978. So he knew like what Michael does when he's free and clear and off Thorazine.
And it's crazy because
Starbucks.
Deputy Hawkins, played by the great Will Patton in this film, was actually on the scene. The way that Halloween 2018 rewrites it is that he was on the scene there, and he's the one that stopped Loomis when he ran outside in the yard.
First responder, yeah.
From killing Michael. Loomis wanted Michael to die. He was going to finish the job, which is a huge flip on some stuff you know about Loomis.
Kind of changes the entire backstory of Loomis.
Right, and the audio tape you hear confirms that, saying that the evil needs to die. It needs to die!
It needs to die. Catherine all the time. Catherine all the time.
The deputy actually stops him and arrests Michael, and the deputy ends up, as he's older, he regrets it now.
I think I read somewhere that somebody was trying to like kind of piece it together, like how it makes sense, because if the original ending kind of stayed in place with the 2018 where he like ran away, when he looks down, but in Halloween 2, at the very beginning of Halloween 2, in 1981, they were like, well, maybe Will Patton's character showed up when Loomis maybe spots him down the alleyway, when Michael's moving house to house, and he's still kind of fucked up from getting shot 6 times.
Yeah. And
then Will Patton says, I was in Armageddon, get over it. And like smacks him on the back of the head. It's just funny to me in a way that Michael Myers is quote unquote arrested, with like regular little handcuffs behind his back, and he can break fucking like steel. And he just let them arrest him. I don't know. But yeah, the idea that Dr. Loomis at that point didn't care anymore like he did in the original series, where he wanted... you never really knew Dr. Loomis's intentions. I mean, you knew he wanted to take Michael down, or at least stop Michael from ever killing again. And whether that meant killing himself in order to prevent Michael, or just keeping Michael locked up forever, you didn't know. Like, it was always kind of up in the air what Dr. Loomis felt towards Michael. In the new one, it's obvious right away that Dr. Loomis, having treated him for those many years and then seeing what he did that night in 1978, he knew there was nothing left redeemable about Michael and just wanted to end it. Maybe shot him and he fell out the balcony, and instead of him disappearing, he ran over to like shoot him in the face or something with the gun, and Will Patton shows up and says, no, not in my house.
Yeah, which he always wanted to keep him incarcerated. Like that's why he went to the doctor's hearing in 78. He was like, no, don't let him out. Don't take him to the trial. He's pure evil. He's not catatonic. He's fucking evil.
But in 2018...
they never said he wants him dead. He wants him incinerated like in this one. So that kind of...
And also, you can tell, I think maybe also Dr. Loomis knew with the 2018 Halloween timeline is that when Dr. Sardane says that they've been studying Michael, and it's a shame to see him transfer because they've had such a wonderful time studying the psychopathic killer, I think that's what Dr. Loomis was afraid of, that they were just going to turn him into this test tube fucker and just study him, not kill him, but just study him for whatever reason.
That's possible, too. Going into the other appearances of Dr. Loomis, in the Halloween Returns script that we did a script review for on our channel, you find at the end of the script, and this is a movie they wanted to have made.
I don't know why it wasn't. It was fucking great.
You find at the end of the script, Loomis actually makes an appearance at the very end as Gary Oldman, which is crazy.
I couldn't remember. Is that where they were saying that Dr. Loomis has already been an established character, and it's just Gary Oldman coming back in? Because that new psychiatrist was the one...
it picks up after the events of one of the other movies.
So there was a new therapist, and then... Dr. Loomis comes in and says you can't kill evil or something. And yeah, but Dr. Loomis is back, and it's Gary Oldman.
Yeah, which is
you couldn't have picked a fuck. That's amazing.
It's insane. It's wild that movie never got made. And then finally the rendition of Malcolm McDowell in Rob Zombie's series, which he did do a good Loomis.
The first one, yeah.
But so he plays a version of Loomis who's a child psychologist in this movie, and he gets called in because the school was finding dead pets in young Michael Myers' backpack.
I swear it wasn't me, Mom.
What? This parakeet's been raped.
Was
that in the movie?
No, it was in the special. It was in the deleted scene.
Oh yeah, that's right.
After he murders after he murders his family and some of the kids at the school, Loomis works with a speaking Michael Myers, young Michael Myers, who's talking to him for years, which is a huge change. Some of the things we didn't like about this movie at all, from the original Michael Myers, who went catatonic after killing his parents, like immediately. He doesn't.
Sister, not his parents.
Oh yeah, that's right. So he doesn't remember the killings at all, but eventually he ends up going berserker. He kills a nurse with a fork and then goes into his catatonic state.
Wasn't that the nurse from the original? Well, she was something. No. Not the original. She was something to do, like, she was kind of a cameo. But anyway, that nurse had it coming when she was like, couldn't be related to you. And why the fuck are you going to tease a serial killer psychopathic kid anyway that has a clear utensil to stab you in the fucking eyeball?
Yeah, especially while he's eating those fucking the cafeteria
Jello. Jello. But yeah, I mean, Malcolm McDowell, again, Dr. Loomis in the Malcolm McDowell universe is... Malcolm McDowell did say he never watched any footage of Donald Pleasence. He wanted to keep it as fresh and different as he possibly could. He respected Donald Pleasence and his take on Dr. Loomis, but he wanted to... And, like Mike said, for his credit in the first Rob Zombie Halloween, he did all right. Like, it was just a different version, more of a snappier kind of Dr. Loomis than we had seen before.
Yeah,
but more of a direct approach.
And eventually he tells Michael, he's like, I can no longer treat you. This is going nowhere, but in some weird fucked up way, you've become my best friend.
I've been working on my McTitties. Listen.
In some weird...
No, what did he say? Well, I mean, that one part when he was like, okay, yeah, at the end, he was like,
this will be our last session, Mike. I can't reach you. He goes, Jesus, you haven't said a word in 15 years. That's a lifetime. Then he's like, in some weird fucked up way, you become like my best friend. That just tells you how fucked up my life is. And then also he says, it must be lovely living in bliss. I must try it sometime. But yeah, he's a little bit more of a snappier, Loomis was a very direct guy too, but it seems like even this guy is more of the hipster version of fucking Dr. Loomis.
Yeah, he does seem weird. He eventually writes
He goes to Gap.
He eventually writes a best-selling book about Michael called The Devil's Eyes, about the encounters they had with him. Yeah, but he eventually writes The Devil's Eyes about his encounters with Michael Myers. He writes a book about it.
These eyes will deceive you.
Goes on this whole fucking trip, and then eventually, in the end of the movie, Loomis gets his head squished. He grabs his fucking
Which I thought that was it, yeah.
And he squeezed it, and it looks like he's dead, but he's not, because you see him grab Michael's foot, showing that he's still alive. Now, in the original cut of the film that Zombie had intended, Loomis actually successfully talks Michael into letting Laurie go for a moment before unintentionally all these cops shoot him and kill him, and then Loomis looks down at Michael dead because of him, sad. Now, that was in Rob Zombie's original version.
I mean, I don't know if I like that. It could have.
That whole director's cut with the rape scene.
Yeah, that's just stupid shit.
Now, in Rob Zombie's H2, I wouldn't even fucking count this as Loomis because Rob Zombie wrote the character into a shitty fucking oblivion.
At that point, Loomis goes full on prima donna, Lady Gaga, meat suits, and is more obsessed with fame and fortune rather than actually treating Michael Myers or giving a shit. That was the worst fucking version of Dr. Loomis ever.
Yeah, he becomes a total douchebag. He's unrecognizable to the character. He's a whiny Rex Manning type. You've ever oh Rexy, you're so sexy. He's like,
hey,
why don't you all just fade away?
Oh no, he's just like Tom Brady on Deflategate. Yeah, I still won.
Who demands fancy teas, and he writes Michael Myers books recklessly, destroying the lives of everybody in the process. He thinks Michael's dead. He literally yells at a crowd of reporters who think that he's not dead and ask him about it.
Even then,
Michael Myers is dead!
Even if he fucking gets mad at his own, and so he's like, when I want your opinion, I'll slap it out of you. Yes. I'm like, dude, it's just, at that point, it's like, who the fuck is this character? Because it's not Dr. Loomis. And the way that they shift and go into Turbo with him, as far as not giving a shit, more concerned with fame and fortune, going on a talk show with Weird Al Yankovic, promoting his book, getting mad and disappointed at the fact they made fun of him, and then all of a sudden he gives a shit again.
Yeah,
makes zero sense.
The low point of the entire Loomis franchise is when he's on a Chris Hardwick talk show, and he literally gets zinged by Weird Al Yankovic.
At that point, yeah, I would probably say my career's over.
He eventually does see the error of his ways. He's sitting in a hotel room and he's like, "I'm an asshole,"
because it's random.
Yeah,
but he just sees a footage on TV that Michael Myers and Laurie Strode
Well, when he realizes,
or in a barn.
When he realizes Michael Myers is alive, he realizes he's made a mistake, and he runs out to the barn. He runs in recklessly to try to save Laurie, and there's two different fates for Loomis in this. In the theatrical version of the film, Michael stabs him in the face and the chest, just fucks him up real nice. In the unrated version, Loomis gets tackled outside of the shed by bearded, maskless Michael, who stabs
homeless
him.
Man of the tracks of railroads.
Yeah, George of the Jungle. He gets stabbed in the stomach. Loomis does, and then all the police officers shoot Michael. Then Laurie, who's possibly now picked up, taken over for Michael, walks over, picks up the knife, and walks towards Loomis to presumably finish him off. Because we don't know in this scene if he's dead or not. He's just been stabbed in his stomach, and then she's shot to death by the police.
I think that's a fitting ending. And for Rob Zombie's goddamn abortion that crawled out of the fucking hospital, that should have been the ending for this bullshit movie. Because I don't want to see I want to take all the characters out, because at that point you've ruined the franchise. Dr. Loomis's character was completely tarnished in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Yeah. That was a shit show, and I don't really understand, like, even if you were not, like, if you didn't even know who Dr. Loomis was, and like the cool legacy that Donald Pleasence had left behind for them to play with, even if you didn't know that, and the fact that you take Dr. Loomis and tarnish him in that way, that's fine. Even if you want to do that, the fact that character in of itself in that movie just doesn't make sense. Like, even just story wise, Dr. Loomis from Rob Zombie's first Halloween to Rob Zombie's second Halloween does not make sense at all.
So I hate to end it on a sour note. But
first they're sour, then they're sweet.
That is the entire story of Dr. Loomis. One of the greatest characters, if not the greatest character, next to Michael. In my opinion, it would go Michael Myers, Dr. Loomis.
I think he's one of the best characters in folklore. Period. Like, I mean, just in general storytelling.
Yeah, he'd be in my top 5 horror characters of all time.
He's got to be. I mean, if you think of Michael Myers, you think of Dr. Loomis. At least other fans of Halloween would instantly say. I mean, I know people would say Laurie Strode, but I think of Dr. Loomis before I think of Laurie Strode.
I personally do too. As fantastic as Jamie Lee Curtis is, and it's just a shame that Donald Pleasence isn't around to carry on that role. But guys, that is Horror Profiles Dr. Loomis. It's our longest one ever. It might end up being our longest one ever because he's had such a storied character career in the Halloween franchise and never to be forgotten. That is Horror Profiles Dr. Loomis. So, hope you guys enjoyed it.
Goddamn you making.
We'll have more hope.
And goddamn you people for listening. And I hope you fall on a dildo.
We'll have far more horror profiles to come. More obscure characters typically, but every once in a while you got to do a big one, and they got to last a little bit longer. A goddamn banger. I call them keepers.
Banger, banger, backer.
We love your fucking faces. If you're new to the channel, click that subscribe button and get some goddamn walloping.
Tip your waitress at IHOP.
We watched a movie. Yeah. We watched a movie. We watched it. We watched a movie. Yeah. You know what? We did a review. We watched a movie. We watched a movie.